Well, hey everybody, happy Wednesday. It is Wes McDonald here with Level Up, and my good friend Kenneth Edmonds is actually on a cruise ship somewhere. He's probably watching. The guy never quits, but he won't be able to join us in today. But fortunately, I've got another good friend, guest, Larry Levine. How are you?
What's going on, Wes? Hey, great seeing you.
Yeah, great.
As always, we have a good time when we get together.
We certainly do, and I'm really happy to be able to spend a little bit of time with you, just before Thanksgiving, right? And just in the spirit of fun, well, actually, I'll let you introduce yourself to the audience first. That's fun. And then I'll get on with some fun facts about Thanksgiving.
No, I'm going to flip this on you. I know it's your show, West, but you introduce me. Just you've known me long enough, right? So just drop the audience some Larry stuff, and then we'll roll. Well, I flip this around. I know it's your show, but I don't know.
See, this is what Larry does. It's kind of sales. He's like sales training right now, right? So Larry Levine is a best-selling author of Selling from the Heart, and a good friend of mine has been in the industry for well over 20 years, and has since started helping salespeople in all channels to do a better job of authentic selling. So Larry Levine, welcome to the show. How was that?
Dude, that was great. Way better. Way better than I do. Hey, Greg Walters, what's going on? You did way better job than I did, so.
There he is. What's going on, Greg Walters? Nice to see you. And Greg is one of those folks. You'll see him right now. He's actually watching us on YouTube, but I guarantee he'll comment from another channel as well. He's a dual channel kind of guy. Yeah. So Larry, we'll get into sales, but as Thanksgiving is literally right around the corner, I know a lot of folks are probably starting to travel and get ready for that. Today, what are you doing for Thanksgiving?
Actually, we're staying local. I learned this a long time ago because I'm in Southern California. You don't travel on the Thanksgiving holiday unless you want to sit on the freeway in traffic. So we just tend to stay close to home and hang out with friends.
Well, and that does lead me to one of my fun facts. Do you know how many Americans actually travel for Thanksgiving?
You know what? I should know this, but well, only because if you watch the news today, they will tell you. At least in the Los Angeles airport, they will tell you, I know it's millions upon millions that just float through LA.
Yeah, it's actually about 57 million people will be traveling. And of those 57 million, over 46 million of them will be driving. And that's why you're seeing the madness and chaos on the highway there. And welcome, Warren Strom. Good to see you there. Nice to see you. Welcome to the show.
Hey, Wes, you call these fun facts?
Yeah.
I call these like useless trivia, right? It's like when you have conversations with your buddies, and all of a sudden you're going, hey, you know what? Do you know how many people are going to travel on Thanksgiving holiday? And then everyone looks at you and go, all right, just drop it on us.
Well, and the funny thing is, you'll never forget that fact now, right?
No, I'm going to repurpose it later.
So you're staying home. Are you going to be making turkey?
No, I'm just going to partake in the festivities.
Oh, so
actually, we're going to a friend's house, and they're gonna throw a turkey in an oven, and then my buddy's gonna smoke one. So,
oh, nice. Smoking's the best, man. That's what I do with my turkeys. Last one I did was pure perfection. So I brined it for 14 hours, and then injected it with butter and seasoning, and then put it on the smoker for 4.5 hours, and it's the best way to have turkey.
Is that like Canadian turkeys?
Yeah, they're a little bigger. Hey, and speaking of Canadians, our Thanksgiving is in October, right? We don't actually celebrate in November, right?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, and another fun fact or useless fact: who celebrated Thanksgiving first, Canada or the U.S.?
Are you setting me up, dude? It's your show, so I'm going to say Canada.
Yes, you are right. And it was actually in 1578, and there was this guy called Martin Frobisher, who was a French Canadian. And he was actually trying to do the first successful navigation of the Northwest Passage. And to celebrate, they had their first Thanksgiving. And there was no turkey on the menu. Back in those days, you know what ships were like. They were eating salt pork and mushy peas. So,
mushy peas are good.
Yeah. Yeah. And actually, the first U.S. Thanksgiving, there was no turkey on the menu either. And everyone's got this picture, where it's the settlers and the Native Americans, and there's turkeys and all kinds of things. They think that the first meal for the U.S. Thanksgiving was probably venison and eel, because those were readily available at the time, and things were pretty tough, right? So,
dude, I would have starved to death.
oh, well, and it's funny. And the reason I raise these funny Thanksgiving facts, right, is because they're real, they're authentic. And that's one thing that I hear you speak about all the time, right? When you're helping sales folks. And I know that, a lot of people look at the sales profession as kind of a cutthroat thing. Salespeople aren't trustworthy. It's one of those careers that actually people wouldn't even call a career, right? That, sales professionals are some of the least trusted in the world. At least I thought that was the case, but I did some fact searching after we spoke last time. And I think it's politicians are number one, followed by lawyers. So salespeople
and
are.
I'd say, and rightfully so. But here's what's interesting. If you all go back in time and go back in time and go back in time, so I'm talking like the 18th century and the 19th century.
Yeah,
sales was a noble profession. I believe it still is today. But somewhere we lost our ways. And one of my favorite sayings, West, is that what's forever old is forever new. What's
right.
forever old is forever new. The things that are near and dear to me, these were the same things that Andrew Carnegie's of the world were talking about, the Rockefellers, the Fords. In fact, here's what was interesting. If you go back in time, they used to have national sales conferences. And I think at one of the very first national sales conferences, I love this. Warren says engineers, totally hilarious. But if you go back in time, I think it was Franklin Delano Roosevelt spoke. He was like the keynote speaker at one of the very first sales conferences. Those were a big to do. Sales is a noble profession. We got to get back to that.
Yeah. And I totally believe that. And that's one of the things that I've tried to do in my sales career. I've never been one that believes in winning at all costs, right? In other words, if the cost has something to do with my integrity to be able to get a sale, then it's simply not worth, the paycheck, right? And I think it does exist out there. I've worked with quite a few sales professionals, but unfortunately, I've also worked with, a lot of sales professionals who don't, right? And you actually wrote a book about it, right? It was so important to you that you actually wrote a book sort of about authentic selling. And maybe you can, take me through that a little bit, kind of what the chrysalis was, how that all started.
Yeah. Well, it started because of the podcast. So, yeah, many of you know that I started that podcast, Selling from the Heart, 5.5 years ago with Daryl Amy, and we both hung out in the Office Technology Channel. That's where I met Greg Walters. That's where I met you. Yep. Is, my whole entire career from, gosh, I'm going to date myself, but from 1987 until 2015, I sold copiers in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
Right. I was partners in a copier dealership. I made the transition from, analog to digital, and I hung out in this channel. But what made me so different is because I wore my emotions on my sleeves. I was high relation and I was high value, and I wanted to do something different. And the things that I did different were the things that I asked my customers. What do they like? What do they don't like about salespeople? Yeah. And I just started building up a bank of all this. And I'm a very inquisitive person. And in fact, if you look into my why operating system, in other words, my why, my how, and my what, my how is I'm a big clarify guy. So I love asking questions. So I would just keep asking questions with my customers and future customers. What's a great experience? What's a horrible experience? What do they like about salespeople? What do they don't like about salespeople? And I was doing this in the 80s, the 90s, the 2000s, and I just built up a bank of this. And this stuff's not rocket science, but all I did is I just did the complete opposite of everything I was told. I flipped all the negatives to a positive, and I created genuine, authentic relationships, and I brought meaningful business value, and I created an experience like none other. So when I put together Selling from the Heart, and the subtitle is How Your Authentic Self Sells You, that's the crux of the first half of the book. Is if you really want to bring your authentic self to the forefront, you got to really unpack who you are. And this is the big key behind it, because if, this is over the last 3 years, authenticity has become a buzzword. I'm just going to throw it out there.
Yeah.
A lot of talk, not a lot of walk. But authenticity is a lifestyle. It's not a light switch. So What I bring to the forefront in selling from the heart is you got to lead this congruent lifestyle. And your clients and your future clients will smell BS in 2 seconds.
Yeah.
And that's the sixth sense that a lot of people have today. Hence why sales is such a profession. I still call it a profession, but it's why most people view salespeople as not trustworthy.
Yeah.
It's the walk doesn't match the talk. And they're leading all about me instead of all about we. And that's what I packed into selling from the heart. And that's what we're bringing to the forefront through the podcast, through the book. Just a quick note, the rough draft of my next book is done. It'll be out probably late summer of next year.
That's so cool.
But it's this is the time where we just have to stand up and unite as salespeople. And when, those who decide to read Selling from the Heart, I unpack this, and people throw darts at me, and that's okay when I say this, but there's a massive difference between sales reps and sales professionals. And I drive that point home hard in Selling from the Heart. Agreed.
And as Warren says, maturity breeds bigger BS sniffer.
I love that. That is so good, because we all know the 5 senses. But if we look at things today, and this is what I want salespeople, whether you're a salesperson or sales leader, really key in on this, is perception is reality.
Yeah.
And I entered every conversation when I was in the channel. I entered every conversation knowing I was behind the 8 ball already. And I love what Greg said, sales is a profession full of unprofessionalism. I so hardly agree. I call them empty suits in Selling from the Heart.
Yeah.
And people sniff this out. It's because people have preconceived notions of salespeople because of how they carry themselves, what they've done year over year, decade over decade, right? It's full of just big braggadocious bravado behaviors.
Yeah.
And that's why, they always say there's the elite 1%. But you know what? There's also those elite sales professionals that are out there as well. And they're willing to do the things that most sales reps find excuses for.
You mentioned something there I want to, talk a little bit more about, right? Which is this idea of, braggadocious and bravado, right? And, certainly I think that in a sales professional, confidence in what you're doing and what you're selling is absolutely good. And there's that fine line, right? So how do people know when they're, crossing that fine line from being, sort of confident about what they're doing versus, kind of braggadocious?
Well, I always said this is, and this is the way I carried myself, West, is I always said, I always let my actions speak louder than my words.
Right.
And I would just silently go about doing my job. Nobody forced me into sales. Nobody forced me into the copier channel, right? It's not like my dad was in it. My parents hate everything about sales, and I fell into it.
My dad's a pipe fitter.
Yeah, my dad was a rocket scientist, so it goes back. I think what Warren said, engineers. My dad was actually an aeronautical engineer by trade. So, but it was interesting because, as salespeople today, you got to be willing, right? It's not think about this, unless there's some people out there that fall into this category. But it's not like you're 8 or 9 years old and you tell your parents, hey, when I grow up, I want to be a professional salesperson.
No.
It doesn't happen, right?
Yeah.
Somewhere along the lines, we fall into it.
You know what I went to school for?
No clue.
English, literature, and psychology double major.
Yeah, hilarious.
And my sales career started accidentally. It was during the early days of the internet. And like you said, you kind of fall into it, right? It was when they were first started selling the corporate internet, right? So back when ARPANET was still really just a thing being used by universities and military, and this company called PSINet and WorldCom Unionet, they both had this great idea. Let's, the internet's going to take over the world. It was the biggest fad ever, right? But I loved it. Like, I got to tell you, Larry, I loved it. Once I actually started getting into sales, the other thing I liked about it was the knowledge-based sale, right? That, you talk about professionals, right? The learning that's involved, the constantly, sort of perfecting the craft. That's one of the things that I've always loved about sales as a profession, right? you're never done sharpening the saw.
No, here's the thing, and you've heard the saying, everybody uses it, everyone's in sales. They are.
Yeah.
Everybody's in sales. Everybody's influencing somebody.
Everybody. Yeah. And from the pipe fitter to the engineer to the teacher, teachers are trying to sell kids all the time, right? And, I guess the one way I've heard that expression used as well is that the only difference between sales professionals and the rest of the world is that salespeople know they're selling, right? That it's viewed as that, as that skill set. And up here on the page, you do have, some of the podcasts and stuff listed here as well. And that's great. Casey Jack X, when did
Jaycox. That was just the last podcast, and he wrote a book and called Win the Relationship.
Huh.
And it's great podcast. That one just dropped last week. But we podcast every week. Every single week we podcast.
Yeah, I do the same thing obviously with the live stream, right? That consistency to make sure that you're out there. Hey, I wonder, do you think that sales has changed at all in the last couple of years with remote work and everything else? Or you did say earlier that what's old is new, right? That it's these lessons from the past. Is there anything that's changed in your mind for how people sell?
Well, I mean, just look at what's happened over the last couple of years. We're all behind the camera now.
Yeah,
I think that's the biggest thing is technology has done wondrous things. Hey, Warren, thanks for hanging out. Technology has done wondrous things, but it's also stunted a couple things as well. And so I think the things that are changing about selling is we have to get really good in sales around being behind a camera.
Yeah,
we have to. And, a special shout out to a good friend of mine, Julie Hansen, and she wrote a book called Look Me in the Eye. And the book came out during the pandemic. But one of her favorite sayings is this: the genie is not going back in the bottle. So what she means by that is, people, we're not going back to the way it was pre-March of 2020 or into 2019, right? Look, this book is great. It's leveraging the power of video to build relationships with customers. Here, what I want us to think about is we need to start leveraging. In fact, I just had with one of our clients yesterday, I just had a whole coaching session with leaders around this yesterday. Is don't think that all of a sudden any virtual platform is going to go away, whether that be Zoom, right, whether that be Teams, whether that be whatever one you decide to use, if it's Google, whatever the case is, it's not going away. It's never going to go away. We got to figure out as sales leaders and sales professionals how to get proficient behind the camera to facilitate relationships, drive conversations, drive meetings the same way that we were doing it face-to-face. I'm all about face-to-face. But guess what? Some of these meetings do not have to be face-to-face.
No. I honestly, Larry, like when I have you on the show today and anytime that we've done these, right, I feel like we're together, right? I've gotten so used to working kind of in this platform. And it's not just that I've accepted it with resignation, that, I've embraced it, right? That I have seen some people more in the last year than I've probably seen them in the last 10 years, because before I would have seen them at a show, right? At an event. But now we actually, have this ability to be able to see each other and have conversations in ways that we never have before, right? So, like,
yes, this is a I'm going to say this is 100% mindset thing more than anything else. There's a lot of people saying, well, I can't build a relationship behind a camera. Well, guess what? You absolutely can. I will tell you this, a vast majority of the clients inside Selling from the Heart, I have never met face-to-face, and we have built deep, and I mean deep, meaningful relationships.
Oh, I believe it.
It all sits right here. It all sits in our mind. Just because, right? I mean, I can't, and sorry, but Wes, I can't remember the last time I've seen West face to face.
Oh God, it's been years.
I think it's been well past 5 years ago.
For sure, yeah.
But we've still maintained our relationship, whether that be in an email format, in video calls, in doing things like this. This is what salespeople need to realize moving forward, is that the way they nurture and grow relationships, and the way they communicate with people has drastically changed, and it's been accelerated over the last couple years, and
And
it's not going back.
no, and it's become accessible too, right, Larry? Like I remember, as I said, my first sales career was selling corporate internet, right? And one of the things trying to convince people is that they would need email, right? That instead of just picking up the phone and calling people, that you were going to use this thing called email, to communicate, right? And as you said, that mindset was what I had to sell against, right? People saying, why on earth would I need an email? I can just call somebody. I can talk to them on the phone, right? Why do I need a web page? I have the yellow pages, right? I pay to have my business listed in the yellow pages, and so we've always seen that, right? I think it's just every time there's a new way for us to communicate and to stay in touch. So then it moved on to, I don't know if you remember, I've got a smartwatch on right now, but in the early days I had one of the first wristwatch pagers. Do you remember those when they actually had the pagers put onto your wrist?
No, well, here's the thing: is I don't like watches, so I've never worn a watch just because I don't like them. So
Yeah, but again, that's not really a business tool, right? But I'm sure
no,
cell phone.
no, but here I want to key in on something, and this is just a special shout out to a dear friend of mine, Todd Capone. And Todd Capone wrote the Transparency Sale, and he just followed it up with the the Transparent Sales Leader. It happens to be sitting right to my left. And what was interesting is he really pokes holes at salespeople. He says, listen, every tool that's been out there for salespeople, they figured out a way to screw up, right? They found a way to screw up email. They found a way to screw up the phone. They found a way to screw up social. And now here's the next thing is I think they're going to find a way to screw up leveraging video. If you all leverage email, right, to blast out emails, all about me emails, and they're not getting returned, you're going to go to video. And if you do the same thing, you're going to get the same return. So it was so funny yesterday. So again, I'm on this coaching call with sales leaders. He goes, video doesn't work. I said, well, how many times have you done it? Right? Dead silence.
Yeah.
But I said, the videos that you sent out to people, what did they consist of? Dead silence. I said, is it fair to say by your dead silence that it was the same messaging you put in emails that didn't get returned?
Oh, sure.
Dead silence, right? Think about it.
Yeah. It's funny, Larry, I've been in touch with a guy have you heard of Blind Zebra at all?
No.
Fascinating story. It's actually a sales leadership kind of peer group organization. They bring sales leaders together to kind of, work together to sharpen the saw. And the name's actually kind of a funny name because it's Blind Zebra. The owner of the company is actually still to this day an NFL umpire. Like he still officiates, on the game stuff. He's on the field, and that's where the name of the organization came from, Blind Zebra. Because when people are throwing insults at the at the officiators, right? What are you, Blind Zebra? And they named it that. But the reason I raise it is that as soon as I got off the Zoom with them, a few minutes later, I had an email in my inbox, and it had an embedded video, and it was him just personally thanking me for taking the time to have a conversation, right? So once I clicked the video, it's like, hey, Wes, really enjoyed chatting with you today. If there's anything else I can do for you. Very simple, right? But
yeah,
I was blown away. I was like, what a great use of the platform, right?
Yeah, I tell salespeople right now, the fastest way for somebody to get to know you in the world we live in today, stick your mug in front of a camera and start talking. I mean, it's not that hard. It doesn't have to be polished. It does not have to be polished, and perfection doesn't exist.
Right.
Just start speaking and get comfortable being in front of a camera.
Yeah.
And those that do, watch what starts happening to how fast you start generating conversations, things like that. So here's a really interesting, this is a fascinating stat. So we use Bomb Video here at Selling from the Heart, and they've been a past sponsor on the Selling from the Heart podcast. Well, their chief marketing officer check this out, West. This would have been, I'm going to say 2019 or 2020. I can't remember which year, so it's one of those two. So their chief marketing officer actually tracked every single email that was sent to key decision makers and influencers. Okay. And guests of, when he went out on guest podcasts and so forth, every single one of those he tracked in an Excel spreadsheet. When it was sent, right? Who it was sent to, email address and all that. He did it for one entire year. And again, I can't remember his full calendar year, 2019 or 2020. And listen to this. This is his open rate on the email and watched videos. It was 86%.
That's great.
Okay.
Yeah.
86% open rate and video watch rate on his emails. So just think about this. Everyone today, right? If you're in sales, right, you're vying for somebody's attention.
Yes.
You're vying for somebody's attention, whether that be phone, email, a social touch, something that you post, or a video message.
Wow.
And so what I'd ask everyone to consider is be really cognizant of the words you use and the messaging that you use.
Yeah.
And watch what starts to happen. This stuff's, it's just the little things that matter. But and they don't have to be long, drawn out video messages. Mine are less than 60 seconds.
Well, think about those numbers that you just shared. And a shout out to Sarah. Nice to see you.
Hey, Sarah.
It is great to see Larry today. And Sarah, it's great to see you too. Yeah, like when you look in, the marketing world, right? Sort of those open rates and conversions or click-throughs, right? And, click-throughs, if you're having a good day, are anywhere between 5 and 11%. So when you talk about, someone clicking on that video, a click-through rate in the 80s, that's absolutely stunning. Yeah. Like, it's phenomenal, right?
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, this stuff works, but I just have to go there just because I lived in the channel. I want everyone in the, the Office Technology channel just to really key in on this for a moment. Right. And there's all the naysayers out there that are talking about all the negativities that are in the Office Technology channel. I mean, and in any channel, there's negatives and positives.
Yep.
So here's what I want us to think about. If you're a sales leader, you're a dealer owner, you're a business owner, you're a sales leader sitting in the channel right now, I believe the way that you stand out moving forward as you start heading in and thinking about 2023 is a couple things. I'd ask you, start building a community with your clients. And some might be saying, well, what do you mean by that? Take all the clients who know you, like you, and trust you, all the people that have done business with you year over year over year, and start building a network of all those people. And then the next thing you start doing is educating and engaging with them. And then the next thing you do is you start leveraging the power of video. Now, here's the big key. Don't talk about your wares. Nobody wakes up in the morning and says, I cannot wait to talk to a copier sales rep or whatever title you all want to give yourself, right? They're not waking up thinking about you. But what they are waking up thinking about are the issues and the challenges and what they need to do in their business to become better. A forward-thinking salesperson in the channel moving forward is going to bring vision to the forefront. They're going to educate them. They're going to engage with them, and they're going to leverage the power of video to do this. And those salespeople in the channel that can do this, watch how fast you start connecting and relating to people, and watch how fast you start driving conversation. Now, here's what's interesting, because I'm still connected to a bunch of people in the channel. The channel likes talking about things that are near and dear to them, which are the things they sell.
Yeah.
I understand that. But you've now just disconnected from your audience. If you want to connect to your audience, talk about the things that are important to them. And it's not your products, your services, the great dealership you work for, the great company you work for. They don't care about that. If you want to connect to your clients and if you want to grow monumental new business, start building a community and educate them, which means you have to become educated yourself.
Yeah. Well, that's the first step, right? Is making sure that, that you are learning. I think that is such an important part of any career, let alone, just in sales, right?
Yep.
And you did mention, obviously, in this channel that, we have been a channel of things, right? If it's a copier or printer or whatever. And that's how people have been paid, right? So if you're paid to sell a thing, shocker, most people are just going to focus on, selling that thing. But I think it also attracts that kind of talent, right? If that's what you're saying, here's how we're going to measure you. Here's how we're going to, you're going to prove your value to us by selling this many things. Then that's, surprise, surprise, that's what's going to happen, right? I think one of my favorite jobs that I had when I was doing managed print assessments back in the day was that I was paid on efficiencies, right? So I'd go into an organization. The more inefficiencies I could find, they had a sliding scale for what that looked like. So even if the sale that I had was lower than it could have been because of the solutions that it was putting in place, I got paid more, right?
Yeah.
It kind of drove that behavior. And it was one of my favorite jobs because I was getting paid to do the right thing.
Yeah.
Like, customers said, I'd really like that, the bigger, copier. I'm like saying, well, you can get whatever you want, but I'm telling you that this one over here that fits in this band, that's actually a better solution for you, right?
Yeah.
So,
no, I totally agree. And here's what I ask people to really think about. And again, when I'm saying this is no disrespect to the channel, none whatsoever. And I don't want anyone to take it this way, but the things that are important to you, are they important to your customers, your clients, however you want to refer to them, or your future customers and clients? I'd submit to you, possibly not.
Yeah.
We must, if you're in the channel, you must unpack what's important to your customers at this moment in time. What are the things they're working on? What are their challenges? What are their goals? What are their initiatives? Where do they see their business a year from now? Where do they see their business 6 months from now? And you have to help them navigate that.
Yeah. How does what I do help you to achieve what you want to achieve?
Yeah, but we attach way too much to the things that we sell.
Yeah, completely agree. And that's one thing. You remember, it always comes and goes, right? But that solution's a dirty word, right? And what was the expression? I can't remember the expression now, but it was funny. It was like, I've never seen a solution that could help you hit quota or something, right? When people talked about solutions in air brackets, but this idea that if you do, I think what we did is we misconstrued a software solution, either document management or some other thing, as a quote unquote solution, right? But the solution is, to your point, Larry, working with that customer, finding out what's important with them, and making sure that we're bringing the pieces to the table that's going to help them achieve that end, right?
Absolutely, even if it's not right for you,
right?
Because that will come back tenfold. And I don't know how many times I sat in sales bullpens where that wasn't the case. And they'll find a way to fit a square peg in a round hole.
Yeah.
As opposed to saying, hey, I just can't do it.
Yeah.
A solution is a mixture of liquids. Hey, Greg Walters, would that be like adult beverages or something?
Oh, he's absolutely the best. I love it. You can find the humor in just about anything, right?
I know.
Yeah. Well, and like you said, it does come back in spades, right? And I'll tell you, Larry, I have friends in the business. I had one that actually left the technology services world, where he was kind of a big deal. And during the pandemic, he went into real estate, right? And did very well, but realized that he missed the technology space, and he reached out to me and said, "Hey, Wes, like, just putting out my feelers, like, is there anything out there that you think you can introduce me to?" But because he was the kind of person that really approaches his career, selling from the heart with that kind of authenticity and those other things, I introduced him to 5 of my biggest contacts, right? Saying, I don't know if they'll have something for you, but I have enough faith in you, right, and your proven track record and how you approach sales, that I would put you in front of anybody, right?
Yeah.
My 5 biggest contacts, I'm introducing you. Warm emails right today, right? So I think when you see it coming back, that's what people have to remember, right? Especially if you want to have a career. So
absolutely. And I'm a big believer that the more you give, the more that'll come back to you. But it's just you got to be willing to have that mentality. And and the decades I hung out in the channel, I always played the long game. I never played the short game.
Right.
I always played the long game, because short-term vision stunts long-term growth.
Sure does.
And so that's all I did is, I remember I'd walk away from deals because it wasn't right.
Yep.
And I would find people to bring in that could help them, that could do a better job than me. It always came back tenfold.
Yeah.
Dude, Greg Walters, I love a great old fashioned. In fact, I think I'm going to have one tonight.
And did you see Sarah there? Have you been drinking? Hey, speaking of old fashions, I actually had one. My family and I were just in New York because there was actually a technology conference there. And so we figured, what the heck, it's a 6-hour drive from where we are. So we packed up and, spent the week in New York City. And there's a place, big shout out to the Empire Hotel. And they do a beautiful old fashioned, and it's infused with smoke. And I know that's kind of trendy and a lot of people that, but it was delicious. Yeah. So
so you plug them. I got one to plug. So every year I speak in an event in Atlanta, down by Centennial Park of the Georgia Congress Center.
Okay.
And we stumbled across this speakeasy, and it's called the Red Phone Booth. So if anyone's ever around Atlanta, go to the Red Phone Booth, and you actually have to get a code. You walk in an old British red phone booth, and you pick up a phone, and you got to punch in the code. And then once you punch in the code, right? That's it. It's on the screen. Once you punch in the code, then somebody opens the door, and when you walk into this place, it's a cigar lounge and a bar, right? And they make, hands down, it's been the best old fashioned I've ever had. So everywhere I go, so Sarah, you got to go check it out. Check out the Red Phone Booth. It's right by Centennial Park or something like that. But they're all over the Atlanta area. But you got to check out, if you love old fashions, get an old fashioned. Still to this day, I don't know how much they cost because I'm just afraid to look at the bill. So, and I will tell you this: every single time I've gone there, it's been with Daryl, right? And I know Greg and Sarah and whoever else is watching knows Daryl Amy. So every time we go in there, we get the same thing, right? It's one old fashioned, and we lead to another, and we always stop at two. And when the bill comes, I said, Daryl, you handle this. I don't even want to see it. So still to this day, I don't even know how much they cost, but they're the best old fashioned I've ever had.
I love it. Yeah, I just threw up the Empire Hotel here as well. And my daughter is 50. She turned 16 this week, and it was kind of her birthday present. Where do you want to stay? And this hotel is actually featured in quite a number of Gossip Girl episodes. And I was surprised too. It doesn't rob you, right? But it is literally, a minute walk from Central Park as well, right?
Okay.
Absolutely love it. And I don't know how much time you spend in Central Park, but when I go to New York, it's a fan favorite, right? It just boggles my mind that they've got this massive park in, what is probably the most expensive real estate on planet Earth, right? And it's full of trees.
Yeah.
I love it. Oh, well, that's great, Larry. Listen, in respect for your time and for that of our guests, I think we're going to get ready to go and start thinking of Thanksgiving. And, I just can't thank you enough for, joining me today, for all the stuff that you're doing out there, trying to make sure that professionalism grows in the sales channel. Just really brilliant. I'm going to put up your book again here for 1 second. Let me see if I can find where I put that page. So for anyone that is actually looking to sharpen their skills, make sure you head over to sellingfromtheheart.net/book, and you can get a copy of the book there. Oh, and it looks like you're signing some copies for people as well.
Yeah. So if they go to sellingfromtheheart.net/book, just pay for shipping and handling, and I'll sign a book, and there'll be some other goodies that get sent along your way as well.
Well, that is so cool. And what a nice thing to do in general, but I think especially this time of year, we have so much to be thankful for. And maybe I'll finish on that note. I'll share certainly one of the things that I'm thankful for, that I've been blessed to, really work with people in this channel that like yourself, that I do admire, that would also consider friends, right? That we've been, really blessed in this channel, not just to have a great profession, but to have great relationships in that profession as well. So, thank you for that. And what about yourself, Larry? What kinds of things are you grateful for this Thanksgiving?
I would say this is, I'm super grateful and thankful for everyone who has joined me in this movement. 5.5 years ago, I asked Daryl, I said, hey, you want to start a podcast? And Daryl said, no way on God's green earth am I starting a podcast. Right? Dude, this is dead serious. And I said, no, come on, let's start a podcast. And he goes, what would you call it? And I said, Selling from the Heart. And right then Daryl goes, I'm in, hook, line, and sinker. 5.5 years later, we've built a complete business around selling from the heart. The book's done amazingly well. It's afforded me to fly all over the world and work with really great corporations. I'm super grateful for everyone who's believed in me, the message. It's who I'm super grateful for.
Well, amen, brother. And all the best, and have a happy Thanksgiving.
See you later, Wes.